Thanks for coming over. I am Scott Smith with Aspen Avionics. And I don't know about you, but I am really excited to be at Oshkosh this year. Probably the most excited that I've been since like maybe the first year that I came. I've been with Aspen Avionics since 2007, and started off with the the legacy systems, the Pro, and then as we grew as a company organization into the MFDs, and as of late we are now doing the Max systems. And so there's some really exciting announcements that I want to make today that we've been talking about this week as well. Again, I'm a director of sales here, and let's go ahead and get this kicked off. So I started out in 2007 with a Cirrus SR-22 aircraft. Love that airplane. That's such a fun, like a little Corvette. And I started off with that, switched the panel around, had a really nice 3-screen system, which is the 2500 system, and flew around in that for almost 2,200 hours. Had that for about 6 years. Went from that, my wife kept having kids, so we needed a couple extra seats, and we went to the A36 Bonanza, which was a beautiful machine as well. As a lot of you out there know how nice it is, the Bonanza Beechcraft family, great flying airplanes, great machines. And again, went back, and that was a 76 A36. And so then I went from the basically a standard 76 A36 panel, floating panel and all that, to a 2500 Max again, and recut the panel, and spent about 4 years in that aircraft, and it ended up I think it was a little over 1,000 hours I put on that. I think it's more like 1,200 put on that one. And then latest and greatest upgrade has been this the PA-46 Piper Malibu. And big fan of the Piper Malibu. There's a lot of good that I get out of that aircraft for performance-wise, mission profiles, things that I can do with the Malibu that I could not do in the A36. One of the big ones is no ice, and also have air conditioning, a lot more space, and especially baggage up front, which is nice when we got the family on board. And then the pressurization, which I didn't realize how big a deal pressurization would be. That is a game changer. So that's my latest aircraft, and here's the latest panel. That's what I'm flying right now. It's literally setting out on the North 40. You guys want to go out the North 40 and look at it? It's sitting out there. It's got this panel in it, and I've been really pleased with the aircraft, with the panel and setup. So the point of all that is to say this: when I'm coming and I'm talking to you, it's from experience. It's I'm living behind this stuff. I'm using it in the real world, right? I'm out there, I'm flying with it, I'm using it, and that's what I'm living behind. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the product line of the EFD 1000 Pro Max, and we're going to talk about what that is and what it does, capabilities of that, and so on and so forth. So you have to understand, Aspen as a company, our model, if you will, behind our designs is to give you upgradability, and also take the investment that you've made in that panel and be able to use that and upgrade that later on in life. And as technology changes, which it's known to do, which is a good thing, right? Because we want to progress, we want to do better. And as that technology changes, you can add that or upgrade your panel, Aspen panel, and we give you paths to do that. So I'm going to talk about that today. But our system, from a installation standpoint, we are a retrofit company. Aspen Avionics, we're a retrofit company. We design products that are easily, relatively term there, easily installed into your panel, into your aircraft. And as you'll see here, the unit itself, we have the can on the back, and the can on the back, it houses your magnetometer, your pitot and static source come in there. We just tee off the existing static lines and pitot lines. We've got a cooling fan there on the bottom, and the cooling fan literally draws air in from the top and exhaust out the bottom. That's what that cooling fan is for and does. And then you got the little sub-D connector on the back, and that's where we bring all our inputs into, whether it be Autopilot, GPS, so on and so forth. The other components that make up the system, we got two other components. So you got the screen, and then you got the RSM, and you got the ACU, or analog converter unit. Okay, and the RSM, let's talk about that for a second. That's our little, it's a housing device. It looks like a GPS antenna. It's actually a housing device, and it houses the magnetometer for the heading source on the HSI, the OAT probe, wind direct that help get the air data computer information, and backup GPS and GPS antenna. And that mounts on the aft part of the aircraft and in a non-ferrous clean environment, so non-magnetic environment. The ACU is used to, it's a little black magic box that allows us to communicate with everything in the panel. So we can talk, whether it's an old KX-170B, brand new Garmin or Avionics navigators, or whatever autopilot that you have. And I'm going to go through a couple of those in a second. But that's the three components that make up a system. So when you buy an Aspen Pro, that's the three components that you get, Pro Max. As far as install goes, we tried, and again, retrofit company, try to make it as easy as we can. And literally you pull out your attitude indicator, throw that away now. No backup attitude indicator required anymore. Pull out your DG or your HSI and throw that away or sell it. Put in the mounting bracket that goes over the panel of the existing holes, and our unit slides right in. So no panel surgery. And if you're like me and you don't like people cutting on your panel, or airplane in general, right? We don't want them cutting on our aircraft. And like I said, it works with everything in the cockpit. So we go from everything from the new navigators to the old KX-170Bs and everything in between. As far as autopilot integration, again, you'll see majority of GA autopilots out there are on this list. And we've also recently just added the Genesis, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more today, but the Genesis 3100 autopilot, the new digital autopilot, we got a new interface with them. But everybody's that has an autopilot is probably listed on here. From the Kings, the Centuries, S-Techs, and Cessnas. Now, before I get into all this, a lot of time when I'm making a buying decision as a customer, it's not, the price point's always an issue, but it's more of, I'm just nervous about putting, replacing these two instruments that I've been using for my whole career for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever years, how many thousands of hours that I've been looking at the same instruments, round dials, and now I'm going to switch over to this piece of glass. Now I've got a couple slides here I want to go through and just explain how it's not that big of a transition, okay? And you're going to learn that one of the, I guess the largest learning curve on the whole process is really just getting used to tapes, getting used to looking at tapes. The attitude indicator and your HSI are exactly where they've always been, right? Can you guys hear me okay back there? Can you hear me okay? You guys can hear me? Okay. I hear a lot of noise outside there. Check, check, check. Okay. But anyway, your attitude indicator and your HSI are still where they've always been. The really nice thing about our attitude indicator is that we give you a line every 2.5 degrees instead of every 5. So what that translates into is that you get a very precise instrument. Okay, you basically doubled the sensitivity of the attitude indicator, and you realize how much more you're using that attitude indicator than what you've had in the past. And the HSI is right where it's been. Our HSI is actually a little bit larger than your traditional HSI from a font standpoint and viewability. So you'll note that as well. And of course, it's a really bright, crisp, clean screen. The airspeed indicator, it's right where it's always been. Altimeter, always where it's been. Now, here's where the tapes come in. And you got to get used, just like using your airspeed indicator today, you don't look at one little digit, you look at you've got the gauge, right? You're kind of, oh, that's where the needle's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in this area for I put my, flying the approach or whatever. It's the same way using the tapes. Don't look at the entire tape, just look at the, look at the entire tape. Don't look at just the single digit. That's what I'm trying to spit out. And same way with the altimeter. Don't look at the single digit, look at the entire tape and kind of where you are. And that'll help move that learning curve along. But be honest, guys, you fly this thing for 3 or 4 hours, you're gonna have it figured out. Vertical speed, right where it's always been, lower right-hand corner. We've got a graphical vertical speed and a digital, and you'll see that digital is right up here above it. And so what I do is when I'm flying, I'll adjust my pitch because I've got a precision pitch instrument, I'll go, okay, I want to go down 500 feet a minute. I know on the plane I'm flying, it's about 2.5 degree pitch down. I'll reference the vertical speed. I'll say, okay, am I at 500 feet a minute or not? And I'll make small adjustments. Instead of just staring at, before, you always give a lot more attention to that vertical speed indicator. Turn and bank. Now here's where it's a little bit different, because our turn and bank is made up between two different things. You've got, right up here is your slip and skid, the top part, and you step on the bar. Now, instead of stepping on the ball, you step on the bar. And the turn rate indicator is right here by the heading indicator. So as you turn, you're going to get a rate indicator is going to come out, and half standard's right there, and then coming on out, that'll be a standard rate turn. So when you enter a standard rate turn, about 18, 20 degrees, you'll see the graph come out, and you know if you're standard rate. And then just stepping on the ball, stepping on the bar instead of stepping on the ball. So I'm showing you this slide, it's a really busy slide. It just kind of gives you an idea of everything that it can display. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but there's a lot of capability with the display, a lot of things that we can do and show you. I don't expect you to remember all this. I'm just showing you that there's a lot of stuff there. And if you split the unit down the middle on the left-hand side, that's all controlled with the left-hand knob. Everything on the right-hand side is controlled with the right-hand knob. Pretty straightforward. As far as, I'm going to go through these slides pretty quick, but the attitude indicator, standard, your doghouse display for pitch, and then bank is the top, and each line's 10 degrees out to the 30, pretty standard stuff. Now when you go over, you over pitch, it's going to give you the arrows going, hey, go back down this way. And when you start getting into the digital autopilots that give you envelope protection, that comes into play there as well. It'll say, hey, nope, start back down. It actually won't let you stall the airplane, won't let you overspeed the airplane. A lot of cool stuff with these new digital autopilots. And how many of you have had an attitude indicator failure? Anybody had a gyro fail on you? Right. Does it just go and dump on you? Or does it kind of go, die real slowly, right? Dies real slow. I was over Ohio, Cincinnati actually, and I get a call, it's at night, and I get a call from ATC saying, hey, you check your altitude, you're 400 feet low, whatever it was. And I look down, I'm like, yeah, I'm 400 feet low and I'm turning. Why am I turning? Because my attitude indicator was straight. Because the autopilot was following the attitude indicator. It was a King autopilot, so it's an attitude-based autopilot, following the attitude indicator. So I'm looking like I'm level, right? Looking at this, and well, that's not right. I've got vertical speed going, and my HSI is turning. Oh shoot! So I disconnected the autopilot, brought it back, where those other needles quit moving, and figured I had a failed attitude indicator. Landed, and went home the next day. But with the Aspen, if you have an issue or a failure, it makes it very obvious. It red X's it and says, you're having a problem with this, whatever this piece is. And I like that. If I ever, I don't like failures, nobody likes failures, but if it does fail, I like it to be very obvious you've got a failure, right? On our airspeed indicator, we do some really cool stuff over there. We give you all your V speeds, so you can label your V speeds, and that's really some useful tools in there. So I know when I put my landing gear down, my flaps down, I know my VX, VY, VG, blah, 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 whatever V speed you want to put in there, you can put in there. If you're a twin, we put in all of the same way if you have a pitot blockage, it just red X's the airspeed. Everything else we keep on going. But if you have let's say a twin, you got your V speeds for your twin. So like VYSC, best single engine rate of climb, or VMC, which is a single engine minimum controllable airspeed with a single engine. And the rest of the V speeds as well. And we all know all that. From an operation standpoint, we get altitude call-outs. So now with the new Maxes, everything is an audio call-out through the headset. You get like your minimums call-outs. You get altitude alert. You get when you hit DH, if you've got a radar altimeter, and you set your radar altimeter and you hit that, you get a call out for that. So again, here's some examples of the different annunciations we put on there. One of the biggest things I love about the system, and you'll see this a little bit more in the next 30 minutes, is the way we display the approach from the final approach fix to the misapproach point. Nobody does it better. We got it right in the top part of your screen. You've got glide slope and localizer, minimums, airspeed altimeter. So you've got all this information, and it really starts getting rid of the scan. And so here's some examples of our vertical speed tape, and you'll see it both digitally and graphically. So our HSI and the compass, there's some different layouts you can do. You can do the arc mode or 360 mode, and here's a very good example of what I was talking about a while ago with the turn rate indicator. How fast am I? What's my turn rate look like? And if I'm looking here, this right here is that's standard rate. So we're past standard rate right now, but that is a standard rate turn. That's half standard rate. And it works in both the arc mode or 360 degree mode. This little cyan on diamond we've got here, that is what you're tracking across the ground. That's a super useful tool, right? What am I tracking across the ground? Because if I'm hand flying the airplane, I want to put track and desired track together. I put that little diamond on top of my green course arrow, and it keeps desired track and track right together. So it makes it real simple. Make little adjustments when I'm hand flying. So some different examples of layouts that we can show you on the HSI. Your standard HSI look, you know, with the deviation left and right. You've got the arc mode here with a deviation left or right. We're actually right of course there. And also note here in the upper left-hand corner, we give you the bearing, the distance, and the ETE to that spot. How long it's going to take me to get to that spot on my next waypoint in the flight plan. So that's all right in front of you on the Aspen display. Now here was where we put a CDI indicator at the bottom if you like that, or if you like the bar. It's customizable. Here's your glide slope and localizer. I just want to pull everything out and just show you very clearly. Glide slope localizer is in the top part of the screen. And some different examples of the CDI and the to a from indicator. And the point of all this, guys, is to explain that how customizable we are and how you can do different layouts, you know, and everybody's brain works a little bit differently. Some people may like the arc mode, some people may like 360, some people may like CDI and not have a lever line up there, but it's customizable. We also bring in the 10 nearest VORs, intersections, NDBs, and of course the flight plan from your navigator. And what's nice about that is there's no database in the system from a single screen perspective. We're pulling those data points in from the navigator. So it's the 10 nearest fixes of all those items listed there. As far as just looking at the different buttons on the right-hand side, it's pretty self-explanatory. Range key up and down for your moving map. You've got a menu key. Menu's your friend. If anything you want to customize or change about the picture you're looking at, hit the menu key. And you can go through the different available options. How many pages do I have? My minimums, I hit that button, dial in the minimums for the approach. I've got the HSI mode, whether I want it full 360 or arc mode. I've got GPSS, the hotkey right above. Notice how close that is right to your heading bug, okay, or your heading knob right here, and GPSS up here. Anybody flown with GPSS? Anybody used that before? One of you? Okay. I call it George Pilot Super Stud, GPSS, because George can fly that airplane a whole lot better than I can. And it's almost worth the price of admission just to have GPSS. So, but what I like with the location of it, because I got the heading bug right there, and then I just reach up and activate and deactivate GPSS. So as I'm taking off, ATC says fly this heading, fly that heading. I just dial it in with the heading bug, and they say clear direct to your next fix, direct to enter on the navigator, and hit GPSS, and away it goes. And I want to leave the autopilot in heading mode. Barrel's right underneath that. Pretty self-explanatory. Just like your altimeter, you hit the barrel key, dial in whatever the barrel is for the day. So we have the flight director display. Now, we don't make up a flight director. Your autopilot has to have the capability to do flight director. We will display it, but your autopilot has to have that capability already. We also have, I talked about on an ILS and WAS approaches, the glide slope and localizer. The air data information there is kind of what splits the two. It splits the difference between the, splits it between the attitude indicator and the HSI and your track bug. And then the 3 buttons across the bottom, pretty self-explanatory. The center one is the source for your HSI, and then the 2 other ones are the RMIs. So you can bring in your different source. So if you want to point at one station and be navigating using GPS and so on and so forth. But that's what those are for. So who's heard about? I mean, and our Max systems has all this, but I'm really want to kind of get in the weeds out here and get in the nitty-gritty on the Max. Anybody have a Max system yet? Anybody have a Pro Max? Thank you, sir. So I see a lot of opportunity in here, right? So a single screen Aspen Pro Max, you can install that today, remove an attitude indicator, remove your vacuum pump, remove your HSI and DG, and the only backups required now are your turn and bank, and your airspeed and your altimeter. So those 3 instruments are the only backups required with a single screen Aspen Pro Max. We just announced that last week. So that's a really big deal from us. Now you put in 2 screens or more, 2 or 3 screens. I hope you all put in 3 screens. I got 6 kids to feed, so. But if you put in 2 screens or more, there's no backups required. So you can literally redesign your panel, put in 2 screens or 3 screens, and there's no backups required. So that's super exciting news. Now, what is it that's the big deal about the Pro Max? Well, understand this. The Max system is a completely new build. There's nothing except for the form factor between the Legacy and the Pro Max that are similar. Everything's new from the screen, all your processors and your AHRs, everything's redesigned so that it's really, people say, well, it's an upgrade. No, it's not. It's a brand new system. And we've got some really cool new technology, the audio callouts through your headset. Instead of having a little sound alert, you get the audio callouts through your headset. You get dual aiding AHRs. That's a really big deal. So dual aiding AHRs, to you and me, what that means is there's no single point of failure. If I have a pitot blockage, the rest of the unit's going to keep on working. Whereas with the Legacy system, if you have a pitot blockage, it red X's the whole unit. Now you have a pitot blockage, it just red X's airspeed, and everything else keeps on working. Best thing about it, it goes back again to Aspen's design of being upgradable. And if you have a Legacy unit, we've got a great path to get you to the Max. And I'm going to talk about pricing and all that in a little bit, but it's plug and play. So literally you pull out we're going to ship you the brand new Max ahead of time. It's going to come with a 2-year warranty. It's going to come with synthetic vision. You're going to pull out your old unit, put in the new Max, send us the old unit, that's the core, and you go away. Go away and enjoy your new Max. It's literally that simple. Now there's an option which I highly recommend doing. It's a twisted pair audio wire so that you get the call outs to the headset. No brainer, right? And just do that while it's at the Avionics shop, and that's going to, run you a couple hours of labor, but you're literally the whole process shouldn't be more than like half a day on a normal airplane. There's some exceptions to that, but there's a lot of good with the Max. And again, you've got a Legacy unit that could be 5-10 years old. You're getting a brand new system with a 2-year warranty. I mean, the 2-year warranty alone's worth $800 if you go buy an extended warranty. Okay, so just the bullet items here so that you get it. No backups, no backup attitude indicator required. We've got the audio panel interface, which is a big deal. The intercept, we call it the intercept banana or arc. I call it the banana. Basically, whatever altitude you dial in, we're going to draw an arc out in front of you and say, here's where you're going to be at when you cross that altitude. So it makes it really nice for crossing restrictions, or if I want to go under airspace or over airspace or terrain, or ATC says, or not even ATC, just when I'm flying into an airport, I put it 1,000 feet above, the airport, so my pattern, traffic pattern, and I know as long as that arc's on the airport or before it, I'm okay. If it's beyond it, I go and go down a little bit faster. Okay, so over on the MFD side, talk about that a little bit. We get METAR flags. We've added that to the moving map, and so you have very color-coded color-coded flags on the different airports, so you know what the conditions are there, right? If it's VFR, marginal, IFR, or low IFR. Does anybody know what marginal is? Anybody remember this? I see some blank faces. So 2 to 3, 3 to 5. Does that ring bells? So 2 to 3, 1,000-foot ceiling, 3 to 5 mile visibility. Anything more than that on either, it has to be on both sides, is VFR. Anything less than that is IFR, right? So it's all color-coded. Green, yellow, and red. We're getting bombed. So the other thing I want to talk about is the processing speed is really a big deal, guys, too. It makes that synthetic vision really smooth. And if you've had a legacy system with synthetic vision, you'll notice a big difference in that. So here's just examples of the METAR flag, the altitude intercept banana, and we also give you an AGL readout in the lower right-hand corner on the moving map, so you know exactly how high you are above the ground, especially when you're flying out west, right? Or even around here where the elevation's, 700 feet, 1,000 feet, you know exactly how high you are above the ground. I use that a lot. I like that a lot, especially when I'm out just buzzing around and not on an IFR flight plan. So this new internal extended duration battery, what that means is a couple of really nice things. We used to have what was called an EBB, which is external backup battery. And what the EBB was is it allowed some removal of some instruments, but it was a brick, and it was outside the outside the unit, and you had to install a wiring harness and a mounting rack and find a spot for it and all that. That's all gone. Okay, now it's all internal. So our batteries are now internal. Every unit that you get is going to have this new internal backup battery. And so that makes it nice. That's how you can pull out vacuum systems, pull out attitude indicators, and that was also goes to 2,200 hours or 4 years of use before you replace it. And they're less than $200 to replace them. Any questions on that? All right, so another really big announcement we've made is our smooth and full interface with the Genesis Aero Systems 3100 Autopilot. And have anybody interested in this Autopilot or heard about it, talked about it? Yeah, a couple of you, okay. So it's a really nice interface from everything from indicated airspeed control, all your mode enunciations, flight director bars, indicated airspeed control, altitude pre-select, and vertical speed control. And so you've got all, and that's back and forth between the Aspen and the 3100 Autopilot. And we charge a little less than $2,000 for that, so you get a lot of bang for the buck. And anybody have an existing S-Tech Autopilot? Like an S-Tech 30, S-Tech 40, some with the servos. If you do, or you have friends that do, they can, the display head itself is like 10.5, and you get a new digital Autopilot and keep your same servos that you've had. Then that's through Genesis, okay? On the Autopilot side, we provide the interface, and you get that through us, or actually it's all through your dealer, but we did the interface. Obviously, Genesis does the Autopilot. Any questions on that? And they've already got over 200 airframes on their AML STC list, and they're adding more weekly, really.